Welcome back to Speaking Llama a Survivor podcast. We're excited to continue our deep dive exit interviews with the cast of Titans versus Rebels. We've got my boy, my winner pick, my favorite player of the season. We got Alex on the podcast. Alex, welcome back, man. How are you?
Thank you very much, mate. It's good to be back. And yeah, sorry I couldn't get the job done for you.
That's right. That's all right. I enjoyed watching you play. I had fun rooting for you, so we'll take it. We'll take it.
Thank
Oh,
you very much.
he had plenty of fun rooting for you. Yeah, every week Alex and I do this, like we give out awards for the week, like outwit, outplay, outlast. And
Yeah,
sure enough, almost every week you were getting some award, even if
Last.
like you didn't show up in the episode at all. And if
but I'm just in
anything,
the game, though, mate. That's cool. Oh, I love it. I appreciate it, Alex. Thank you, mate.
Hey, dude, anytime. It's the same name. We gotta have each other's back.
No, no,
So
you've got to do it. Exactly.
all right, man. Well, hey, we want to dive into kind of all aspects of the game this season for you. We got a little bit more time with you than we did last time we chatted. And so jumping kind of thinking back even before you started.
Yeah.
What's your story with Survivor? How did you get into it? Walk us through a bit of your casting process, like stuff like that.
So I used to watch Survivor like growing up as a kid, but never religiously. And then I sort of just went away from all sort of TV and was a very outdoorsy sort of lifestyle I was living. But that outdoorsy lifestyle led me to one Mr. Lachlan Gilbert, who I'm sure you know from All Stars in season 2, I think it was. Yeah, we went hiking in Africa for a mate's 30th birthday, climbed Kilimanjaro, and obviously got to hear all the stories about his Survivor experience. Yeah, then he was like, dude, it sounds like you're interested. He's like, you should apply for it. And I was just like, all right, sweet. So I literally wrote a little script for a video. And then 2 days later, when we hit the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, I made the application video. And yeah, and then when I got a call, they wanted another interview and stuff. And then they needed a headshot. So when sent the headshot in, I sent it without a shirt on so they could see the tattoo that says "Mum Survivor," and I think that like sort of perked their ears up a little bit. And then it was yeah, just about going through the hoops and showing my authentic self. And from there, it was just a whirlwind, mate. It was so much fun. Really enjoyed it, the whole
Oh,
process.
I bet, man. Did you have a lot of time in between finding out you were on the show and actually going out to Samoa?
Oh, no. The whole process when I first got called until we left was probably about like 6 weeks or so. But the
Mhm.
first like 4 weeks is like really slow. Like me and my girlfriend, we were in Bali at the time, and I was just going, a couple of interviews here and a few like back and forth emails and stuff like that. And then at one point it was just like, all right, we need you to do medicals. You're all 95% going on. Can you get back to Perth and do all your medicals like tomorrow? And I was like, oh shit, all right. So my girlfriend May, she had to stay in Bali for an extra week. I just got a flight back to Perth, and then it just all went really quick from there, man. It was like 2 or 3 weeks, and we were in Samoa. Yeah, so it did change life really quickly, but like you're never going to pass up an opportunity like this, man. I was so excited
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
My girlfriend decided to not stay in Australia, and she went back to Europe. She's from the Netherlands, so
Mhm.
yeah, she had to fly all the way back there, and then yeah, it just all happened very quickly. Very quickly.
Wild.
Yeah.
Did Lockie give you any advice ahead
Yeah,
of time? Okay.
yeah, he certainly did. But yeah, there's only so much that you could like. Even if I was to talk to someone else that was trying to get on it, like you can give all the advice in the world, but nothing will ever prepare you for being there. Like it's just completely like, oh man, the first week, like Lockie's trying to say, like, you're gonna be no shelter, you're gonna be hungry and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but like everyone else will be in that same boat. Like, I'll be fine. I'll be right. Dude, the first week killed me, eh? Oh, the first
Yeah.
week was so I was just like, what have I done? Like, it did get a little easier after that first week, but I was just thinking like, if I'm doing like 47 days of this, God forbid if I'm in the final, like there's
Yeah.
gonna be and then yeah, like I didn't do a lot of extra training, or I didn't really do the fire and stuff like that, but I just watched seasons when I you realized I was gonna be on, I was just binging it. And that was my sort of excuse for training, was get to sit on the
Yeah.
couch and some Survivor. And vice versa, like the same thing though. You can watch all of it, but like
Mm.
there's plans on plans on plans on plans on plans, and I just wasn't ready for that. Like there's just so many smart people, so many doing so many cool, interesting little plans that like as you boys know, I just couldn't really get on top of that, especially the early.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes like there's one or two players every season where like they, for whatever reason, like kind of get on the bottom early and then they're just like constantly trying to get out of that position. And I felt like that was you this season, despite your best efforts, right? But you're there on the first day on the mat. What's like your strategy, right? We know all hell breaks loose and you know you have to throw it the strategy out the window, but what were you thinking when you started playing the game?
Heading into it, actually, it's funny. DF, the producer, asked me this question in one of the interviews. He's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
what are you going to do?" Like, we spoke about like what my general strategy would be, and I sort of said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to be this, likable, fun character that everyone's going to get along with, and they're going to find it really difficult to vote against me because everyone's going to like me, and I'm going to drop all emotions from it. I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to need to be best friends with someone and save them at all times." And then he said to me, he's like, "All right, what happens if like no one will work with you?" And I just said to him, I was like, that won't happen though, mate. Like, what was that? That won't happen. Like, I know who I am. I know that people will be able to work with me. And he just said, no, okay, yeah. And he knew for that moment, he's like, this is gonna be a perfect sort of character for this show. But nah, like that was the strategy, man, was to come in. I also said to myself
Yeah.
that like I wasn't coming here to be left wondering. So I had the mentality, I was like, all right, be entertaining. When you get on this island,
Mm,
just try things. If it doesn't work out, like don't be sitting there going home. Sorry to Tobias here, but like Tobias with it, just be like,
yeah.
what if would
Mhm.
happen? So I was just trying to be that entertaining sort of character that, it was fun on the island, but then, at confessional was making a bit of fun of it. And I think, yeah, that certainly works in my favor.
Yeah.
It's sort of put a lighthearted spin on the whole experience, and that makes it a little bit easier for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so good. So good. Well, I'm curious too. So that first day, yeah, you see my dog in the background.
Yeah,
Every time, every time. So first day, you're standing on the Rebels mat. How are you sizing up your fellow tribe mates? And then also for you, you're a bigger guy, and so were you looking at the Titans like, should I be over there? Like, why am I over here?
Well, I was actually looking across at the Titans, like, it doesn't look like a group of Titans, if I'm
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, I mean, so you've got, I don't know if you should know, there's like 6 days or so in Samoa before you get
Yeah.
on the island. And like you don't speak to any other contestants, you're not allowed to speak to them, but you do see in passing like some of the other players. And I think you might have seen Mark's post where he'd like done all the scribbles of who was who before the game started. And I did the same thing. We all would have
Yeah.
done, like we'll size them all up. But yeah, like there's just like the thing is what's so good about Survivor and their casting is like there's just characters from all different worlds, man, and they just
Yeah.
plonk them into a setting where there's nothing else but you guys in that. And yeah, you could size up and you can try and create storylines for everyone and trying to like figure out who you're going to align with, who you couldn't. But at the end of the day, like you have no idea until you start meeting these people. And standing on the mat, same thing. Like I think the very first thing that came out of someone's mouth was Kelly, and I was just like, oh yeah, she seems like a really bubbly, sort of energetic person. I might get along with her. And then 2 days later, I'm like, what? I'm like, no way, man. So it's impossible to tell until you get some hours under the belt with like meeting people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Pro-
went ahead a little bit here, but I remember um at Tribe Swap, uh when I finally got to talk to Eden for the first time, he was said to me like, "Oh, dude, I thought you were going to be like just like Nathan, and we wouldn't be able to have a conversation at all." And I was just like, and then we became really good friends, me and Eden. Like we get on so well. So it's interesting that he would have seen me as somebody that like he might not align with, and then the moment, and we didn't really align, but we certainly became really good friends, me and Eden. So it's just interesting. You can't really tell until you meet someone.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the first part of the season, at least especially episodes, the narrative that we were seeing was, the cuddle crew that was happening. But what were your early relationships like, right? Obviously, you were close with Tobias, Sarah, Peta, but who else were you kind of interacting with, aligning with in those early days?
Yeah, good question. So we actually thought, I said this on my last exit interview, we thought that Rihanna and Kirby were like 100% in, and we had named ourselves the Sexy Six. So we like genuinely had the number and thought you like that one. And Garrick and Ferris just didn't seem to be like in my eyes, and this is obviously ridiculous looking back on
Yeah.
it, but they didn't seem to be playing the game at all. And I was like, oh yeah,
Mm.
well, sweet as we've got the six here. We'll be able to bring them two along, and we'll get Kelly or Raymond out. And I was just like sitting so happy, man. I was like, this game's fucking easy, man. I'm sweet as it. Obviously looking back on it, Rihanna and Kirby not with
Yeah.
us, and then yeah, Garrick and Ferris getting on the right side of the vote early on, it's I guess controlling the tribe a little bit further.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was so we had the four in the cuddle crew, and then the Rihanna and Kirby who we thought were with us. Sorry.
Well, what's crazy too is, on paper, I know in our like preseason podcast episode, it's like, oh yeah, Kelly or Raymond, they're the first two going home on the
Yeah.
Rebels beach. And so it's wild to think that it's like they totally flipped it on you. So I'm curious, for you, you're going into that first tribal council and your closest ally or one of your closest allies gets blindsided. So how did that impact the rest of your season? I mean, you didn't even get a single tribal council to like be like, yeah, like we're in it. We voted right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I was absolutely gobsmacked, eh? Like I got a sniff of it when Ferris said at the very first tribal council that someone's gonna be made an example out of. And then I was a bit worried that it was actually gonna be me. So at that point I sort of knew what was happening. I was like there was a big blindside coming, but I was still shocked, man. Like I genuinely thought I think that sort of the unsung heroes in this one were like I give Ray a little more credit than maybe he gets the Australia gets from Ray. I think he's actually like he's a super fan. He watched everything and he sort of knew how to play the game, I think. And I think Eileen in that one, I remember a conversation as well where I think it was like the Sexy Six. We were all talking and we were like, yeah, plan's solid. And Eileen's just like there. And you could just see her crunching the numbers of exactly who's on who. And I was looking back and I was just like, oh yeah, she was on top of me there. She was on top of all of us.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I don't, and then Ray as well, I think as well. But yeah, it was shocking, mate. Absolutely shocking. The idol didn't help as well because I was the only one who knew about that, and I was just like, oh man, like, what the fuck? Thinking I'm in such a good position to like now I'm bottom of the bottom, and I'm like scrapping. So
Yeah.
it was a rude awakening, and I think George said it on Talking Tribal that like anyone who's never played Survivor and hasn't been to Tribal Council yet, don't throw a challenge. Like just so I looking back on that, it was probably one of my biggest mistakes of the game. But we live and learn. As I said, I wanted to be entertaining, and I feel like it was.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So quick follow up on that, throwing the challenge. Who all was in on it and
Yeah.
What did you do to throw it? We saw a little bit kind of on the episode, but I want to hear from you.
Well, so Tobias and I had spoken about it first. I'm pretty sure we brought in Peter and Sarah, and we were all on board. Then we had a conversation out at on the beach. I'm pretty sure we brought, from memory, I think we brought Rihanna and Kirby in on it as well. And then I'm pretty sure that Curbs ended up telling Scott, and that's how it ended up coming out. How did we throw the challenge? That sled was actually really heavy, and I wasn't pushing a single bit, like not one bit, man. It's like it was Tobias the same, and then Tobias is doing the slingshot for a while, and we made pretty sure we really fucking won it as well, though. Excuse my language, but yeah, Charles and Eden just couldn't get that puzzle, and we were so close to getting it done. But yeah, I wish we had in the end. Would have been nice.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of challenges, I think you performed really well throughout the entire season, right? So whether the pre-merge portion or post-merge, like, were there any favorite challenges for you looking back on it?
Yeah. Oh, the Jaden comeback story, that was huge, man. Like we celebrated that like we'd won the grand final, the AFL grand final. I was so happy, man. Like it came at the perfect time, and I could hear JLP saying they're gone, the Rebels are gone. And yeah, that was a good feeling. That was a wicked one to win. What else? The two reward challenges at the time, amazing. The Tea Party one that we won, the mud, like that was sick fun. I was stoked. I would have loved to have won immunity. The hanging upside down one,
Yeah.
Oh, I was so close to that, man. And I just, God, Ree, just yeah, she's a beast, man. All
Yeah.
credit to her. She's just unbelievable. I hope that someday we get to play again together and I can get one over her. That'd be nice. But yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that hanging upside down one, it's like I couldn't even do that. Fully rested, fully fed here at home. I mean, it's
we were there for so long. It felt like forever, and my legs were just cooked, man. Just oh yeah,
oh, yeah.
I don't miss that. Don't miss that at all.
Yeah.
All right, so quick question before kind of we jump into the swap and merge and stuff like that. A big moment on the Rebels tribe was when it was going to be split between you and Tobias, and then the votes changed. Kelly flips the vote, instead of making a tie, votes him out. So for you, how did you respond coming back into camp? Like, what's that feeling of like, did you know it was going to be split on you? Did you think you were going home? And then now you have a second life. So what's going on?
Certainly this early in the game, you don't think that you're going to go home. Like you've had enough, you have conversations, and I was blinded by the idea that yeah, we're going to get somebody else out. I was certainly wasn't comfortable, not like the first week anyway. I felt really comfortable the first week. And then coming back to camp, I was like, it all happened so quick, and then you're thinking a lot about it, and then we got back to camp, and Ferris and the rest of that gang are all sort of not blowing up, but they're really questioning Kel, and Kel's like having a spill that, she wanted to keep me for whatever reasons. And I was just like because it's pitch black out there, I was just hiding. Like I was just maybe like 2 or 3 meters off that conversation. They didn't know I was there. And then I just popped up at one point. I remember saying, I was like, Kel, like she was saying, oh, he's gonna owe me now. We've got him, like I can, manipulate him now, and I can bend him to my will or whatever I need him to do. And I just remember, Kel, appreciate it, mate, but like I don't owe you anything. Everyone gets back to like arguing, and then their whole alliance was just like, why did you save me? I guess at the time though, I certainly didn't show enough appreciation. Right? That's it did save me, and I'm very grateful that it
Yeah.
did, because it made my experience really good. But yeah, I guess she must have seen something in an unlikely alliance or something. We'd spoken a little bit, Carol, like we because we had lots of actual conversations. We didn't really get on, but we did talk. We actually did like sit down and discuss and things like that. So maybe she's thought like, oh, okay, maybe I can work with him more than Tobias in the future. So
Mhm.
who knows, though, mate? I struggle to understand what goes through her head most of the time.
I
I,
can understand that. Yeah.
you're not the only one. I think most of the world is with you just a little bit on that one. But that is so good to know because you came back from that travel, right? We don't see this like conversation that you overhear. And like
Yeah.
your response that we see is, no, I'm good. Like, don't worry about it, Kelly. And I was like, what are you doing? But understanding that you overheard her talking about how she was going to try to manipulate you
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. Your
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
It's honestly pretty badass in my opinion of like, hey, you saved me, but like, yeah, okay, thanks. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know you anything.
Yeah,
Alex,
exactly.
well, speaking Llama,
Who?
Alex, yeah,
Oh,
this is difficult for me. Of course you would appreciate that because I save you all the time, and you just reject me time and time again.
this guy should
But
have to put up with.
moving along, let's talk about this tribe swap. You get swapped into a minority on the new Rebels beach, right? So you go from being kind of on the bottom in old Rebels back on the bottom in news. What was your like response? What was your thinking? Did you see the opportunity to form new relationships with anyone in particular on this new tribe?
Um, well, Trial came at a really bad time, if I'm honest. And it went from bad to worse because
Yeah.
I was essentially floating in the middle of the Ferris Alliance and the Kirby Alliance at this point. But I had told Ferris that Kirby was gunning for him, and I was dead set working with Ferris at this point. And you don't really see, I mean, you can't really know until somebody votes, but we had said like we're working together really well now. So I was sort of sitting a little more pretty than I was 2 days prior to that. And then Tribes what happens, and the three people that I was essentially going to be working with are all on the other side. And I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah.
So I've had to start again. And then on this tribe, I found it on the new tribe with the six OG Rebels, OG Titans, sorry. I found it so hard to figure out where everyone was at. Like I really did. I think I started overthinking my own game and trying to trying to just turn on the girls straight away, which, it's a move, but there's also like, yeah, I did find it difficult. The way I saw it was that they were so tight, and then the Viola thing happens, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I had something going with Mark, and I was really excited about that. I thought, all right, we might be able to get back on top here. And then the girls, Sarah, spilled the beans. Oh, that was one of looking back at it, one of the hard, like frustrating moments. But then watching on TV, it was actually like, oh, this is sick. Like this makes me look better. I know I know it even landed. It makes me look better. But
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious with that boat in particular. I mean, watching it, it was just total chaos. Watching it, was it that way? Like, what was your role like for that sailboat out?
what was the role for the what? Sorry.
Yeah. So one, was it chaotic, and then two, what role did you play in that boat out?
Man, it was so chaotic that one. That was I don't know why, but we seemed to have a lot less time on that one. I think we had like a longer challenge or something, and everything was just really rushed. I'd been speaking to Mark obviously for a couple of days, and since the Viola vote, and I'd sort of said, look, I can get the girls, and he said, all right, keep working on them, and he had like little friendly conversations, but nothing about plans with the girls. But I was like, yeah, we've got them. Like they will definitely vote with us. We'll have the majority, and we'll vote out one of them. And then they've gone and spilled the beans to Kitty. Kitty didn't even realize that they were spilling the beans, which was hilarious watching that. And then Mark did so well. Like he says it in the show. He's like, I don't like to come in hot and heavy, but he was genuinely like, he needed to fix it immediately.
Yeah.
And the only way that he could do it was just like rush back, tell the girls, and they still didn't come on board, man. Even when I told them, I was like, they're voting for you, man. Oh, that was, yeah. My role was essentially to convince the girls and get them on board, which I thought I did really well, if I'm honest. I think I couldn't have done much else, but
Yeah.
Sarah just unfortunately couldn't keep her mouth shut. It was funny to watch.
Yeah, that was one of the more hectic tribal councils of the season, in a season full of really interesting and unique tribal councils. But one of the things kind of wrapping up the merge portion or the pre-merge portion is the middle-aged mafia, right? You get swapped onto their tribe. There is some feuding happening, but did you see that foursome as a foursome, or like to what extent, like did you see them as a solid four, or were there cracks you were trying to take advantage of?
I saw them very much as a three, and then Jaden would vote wherever they were. Like, so Jaden
Mhm.
wasn't like really invested in the whole strategy side of things, but he just thought, I just want to be safe. So
Yeah.
he was generally like an easy vote for them to pick up because that's where the numbers were. And Mark grovels well, and when
Yeah.
he went against Caroline, he always found a way to sort of like, yeah, get back on the sides. He had a really close relationship with Eden as well. Eden was an interesting one. We were having lots of conversations as friends, but
Yeah.
just on the lines. He couldn't really bring me in for no reason. But he had sort of said to me, he's like, "Look, man, I'll just try and keep your name out of the vote as much as I can. If you do the same for me, if it ever comes across that my name's coming up, try and swing him out." And I truly think he did that. I mean, you don't see any of that, and I'll never know. I could ask him, but I think he generally meant that he would yeah, he was going to try and keep me around. He saw value in having me. So, yeah, hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. All right. Well, let's jump straight into the merge here. One of the big things we saw this season is, like Caleb said, shifting alliances, but I felt like voting blocks, I mean, they were changing every single tribal council. Were you able to see that as a player? And how did you make sense of it? Like, could you keep track of who was aligned with who?
Probably not as well as other players, if I'm honest. And I'll credit the curves here. I feel like she observed the game the best. I really do.
Mm.
And part of the reason why I ended up calling her out. But Merge was tough, man. Merge was 14 people, and I had been like, when you're on the bottom, your mind creates like all of these scenarios that you just end up thinking, and it's very hard to rationalize what's actually going on. So that's sort of what I felt. And then when I get to Merge, and there's 14 people around, and everyone's running around like headless chickens trying to have a conversation with everyone,
Yeah.
and it is hard to keep track of, man. I'm not gonna lie. And then there's so many conversations that happen like at nighttime when you're not around,
Mhm.
and that's hard to keep track of. So I won't lie to you, man. Like I found it difficult at Merge. Yeah, it was really. I was just sort of, I had the idol at this point, and it was tricky because every single tribal, you don't really see this, but every single tribal after merge, people tried to flush my idol. Every single one. There was someone be like, "Oh, I've heard your name come out. You might want to play it today." And about, I think 3 out of 4 of the tribals, I did like a little skit where I went pick up a water bottle when he asked for the idol and stuff, and they didn't show any of that. They had the one where I put it around my neck, but I was spewing, man, because like I called him out. They kept trying to get me, and every single time I was just like, "Nah, I'm not going to play it yet. Not going to play it," because they all knew about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was hard to deal with, but I feel like I had a good enough grasp on when the votes weren't actually going to come my way and when they were. And then obviously when I play it for Valeria, there's a last minute switch. So I nearly got done there, which was lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of the idol, what was your strategy with the idol, knowing that it, essentially was a public idol?
Yeah, so that's not how I wanted the idol to go, actually. I wanted to keep it secret, and that's what I said to Ferris and Eileen. And then literally once everyone got it back, I see Ferris in the water with Kirby, and then the next thing you know, someone's like, "Oh, you found it." I was like, "Oh," so everyone knows now. All right, great. That kind of sucked. Obviously Ferris was got to it to get the heat off him. The strategy, I wanted to have it later on in the game. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have it on so that I could use it at a really interesting time to get out one of those bigger players. You want your bigger players later on in the game, but then it just got to a point where I needed a new alliance, and I thought good a time as any to try and gain that trust. And I think it worked really well. I was lucky that Reed didn't change a vote, because it would have looked pretty silly if I played the foul and then went home myself. But yeah, in the end, the idol, there was no correct idol plays this year, but I think mine was probably the closest, where I got into that new alliance and solidified that. It was just a shame that Raymond got her out the net. Like, oh, damn it. Kidding me. Finally got this little home and take it away from me.
All right, well, let's jump to that new alliance then. So I know in our exit interview with you, I kind of asked you, why'd you make that jump from the OG Rebels to the OG Titans? You kind of mentioned a little bit of like feeling like the third wheel, and seeing like Ferris wasn't really seeking revenge for Eileen's vote out before that. So it's like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be here. Tell us a little bit more about your motivation to decide to work with the OG Titans.
Yeah, I think I said to you in the exit interview, man, it was that like straight after Eileen goes home, there's Kirby and Ferris and Jaden and one other Henry heading straight to the well and like giggling and laughing, and you can tell a lot from that, man. Like it really did look to me that like he had set it all up and he's got rid of Eileen, and then he was this is Ferris I'm talking about. And then he's like really solidified his alliance there. And at that point, I'm sitting down next to Caro, and I'm just like, all right, well, I need to figure something else out. And Mark and I had already had conversations. Like we had continued to not working together, but we had continued conversations throughout the entire time. And I always knew that I could go up to him. And he trusted me when I went, like every time we're having a conversation in a group, whatever, he trusted me. And I thought, great, perfect opportunity. And we started having lots of conversations then, like me and him, and then he would go to Val, and then eventually like he'd bring me into the groups with Val and everyone. And yeah, I just started to build trust. And I thought like I can't hang as the the third wheel or fifth wheel in that Ferris alliance. I needed to sort of try something else.
Makes sense. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you mentioned about this early part of the merge is being on the bottom, how just difficult it is navigating all the different relationships. You don't really have a foothold in the game. If you could go back and talk to past Alex or a future Survivor player who's in a similar position, what would you tell them? What advice would you give?
That's a good question. That's a really, really good question. I would say watch. I feel like I invested too much time and too many thoughts into what I was doing, that if someone else was there, you simply just have to observe everyone else. I think if you do that, you learn way more than if you were trying to have conversations with everyone. You just actually have to pay attention to what's going on around you, I think. And that's what I saw Kirby do so well, especially like, in the later stage of the game. That's what I would do. Observe more, I think.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you got there kind of towards the end of your game? I know you mentioned like observing that group go to the well and laughing. Like, do you feel like you were able to grow in that area as you progressed, or where were you at in
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, and certainly, like I really understood that Kitty wasn't with us on that vote. Like
Hmm.
watching her conversation with Rihanna and Kirby made it clear to me that she wasn't there. So that was I was certainly starting to grow. It also helps later on when there's not as many people. Like I said, man,
Yeah.
14 people, trying to keep tabs on 14 people. Oh man,
Yeah.
and it's so hard to do. But when there's like sort of, 10 or 8 or whatever, you can sort of get a bit more of a grasp on it all.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's
Solid.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask about you and Ferris. So, you were kind of in between Ferris and Kirby at the beginning, but said, "Hey, I'm working with Ferris," and then break away from Ferris. What was your strategic relationship like with him, and how did it evolve throughout the game?
Throughout the whole game.
Yeah, hit me.
Uh, well, for starters, we always had a big respect for each other.
Mhm.
And strategy wise, getting to the Titans beach just before merge. He obviously needed a number, which was really good timing for me coming in because it sort of got me straight back into that alliance.
Hmm.
But I never really felt that we were making hard, elaborate plans together. I felt that he had his henchmen in Raymond, Eileen, and Gary for that matter early on as well. And I was just somebody that, if needed, would be called upon. I guess that's how I sort of saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Tricky one.
insightful.
I kind of wish I had early on in the game, first 4 or 5 days, I wish I had spent more time with him and understanding his motives because I
Yeah.
think obviously and it would have been good to surround yourself with a big player like that moving forward. But that's the
Yeah.
way it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah, which that explains some of the like the feud that you have later in the season that we don't see like the relationship develop throughout the entire season. But one of the moments that I wanted to talk about with you and hear a little bit more about is one that we did not see on the aired episode, but in one of the secret scenes is winning the um, letters from home at the auction. Talk us through a little bit more about that experience for you, what it mean to get your letter, what did it mean to share it with the rest of your tribe? Yeah.
Mate, that was the highlight of my Survivor experience for sure. The car challenge was the one before the auction,
Yeah.
and
mm,
JP actually asked everyone, "Oh, what are you hoping for? What are you hoping for?" And I said, "Love from home,"
Mm.
which I was amazed that they didn't make the edit because they obviously didn't because they weren't
Yeah.
going to show the letters. So I was like, "That's
yeah,
why." But I was expecting them to show that and then the letters the next week. But the letters, man, was unbelievable. Like we're all starving. We're absolutely all
Yeah.
starving, but I was craving like some love, man. I really needed to
Hmm.
to hear my girlfriend's voice. And when they brought out all the letters on a plate, and JLP said, "Oh, you can buy your letter." I was bidding against Caroline, and I think we got close to 400, I think. But I just said to her, I'm gonna bid 500 if I need to.
mhm,
So she let me have it, and then JLP said, "Oh, would you like to buy everyone else's letter for the rest of your money?" I said, "Of course, no worries." Who wouldn't do that? And yeah, everyone's just crying. Everyone's like super emotional at this point. I like give a really big high five to JLP and like sort of hug him a little bit. And
Yeah.
I was so looking forward to the episode. Like I built it up to be this like really big thing that Australia would fall in love with me because I'm such a kind. I had my girlfriend here. We had a glass of wine. We were watching it, and then it just didn't come, and I was just like, "Gosh,
mm,
it man, it
Yeah.
ripped my heart out. I was spewing." But yeah, we went back to the beach, and we all sat in a circle, like you know how we do it. That they do it every other season, and yeah, just everyone's bawling their eyes out, man. I was like, yeah, melting. It felt so good to have like I've never experienced an energy boost from something like that,
mm,
like in that intensity. Like you'll have, a caffeine drink, or you'll have some food when you're really hungry and you feel a little more rejuvenated, maybe asleep. But then this one just
Yeah.
like literally made me feel so good. And then it just felt like I got to start the game again, which was really nice.
mm.
Um, yeah, that was definitely the highlight for me. It was a nice moment.
Yeah. As
Thanks
a
for, yeah, appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The as a follow-up to that, I think it's easy for all of us, fans that sit on our couches and appreciate the family visits or like the letters from home. But out there on the island, like what does it like really mean to you, to players? Like put us in y'all's shoes, right? As much as you can on what it like the letters from home or just love in general means while you're out there.
I'm getting like goosebumps thinking about it, man. I
Yeah.
really am. To paint a picture, like we go about our day, and so much of our day is consumed by things that make us feel good, right? It's either a
Yeah.
nice meal, it's a glass of wine, it's a hug from a loved one. You don't get any of that out there, man. You get none
Mhm.
of that, and it's constant, and it's all the time, and it's 30 plus days. And the moment you get that feeling of reading a letter from your loved ones, like my mum, my brother, and my girlfriend had all written in a letter. And
Yeah.
it just put me back there. And I got to
Mm.
spend however long, like a few minutes just being back at home with my family. My brother had a baby boy while I was
Mhm.
out on Survivor, and there was a photo of the newborn Hudson little boy in there, which so I got to see my nephew for the first time
Yeah.
while I was on the island. Super special, man. Like it just broke me. It just brought everything rushing down, and like yeah, it was a really really nice moment, man, and
Yeah.
one that like I'll never ever forget. You'll never forget that feeling of being around everyone and then getting to share everyone. Like you're you're in a game, a really long game with all these
Mhm.
people around you, and they're all just players, and you're trying to beat all of them at every moment of the game. And then at that moment, you're not. You're like you're a human being, and they're a human being, and you feel for them, and it doesn't matter if they backstabbed you the day before. Like you just want them to feel good.
Yeah.
And that was yeah, super nice moment for everyone. It was really nice. I
Yeah.
gutted that he didn't show it. Absolutely gutted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I love that idea of almost being transported back for a few minutes. You're surrounded by
Mhm.
people. They're trying to get you out. Love can only go so far in a game like that. So
Yeah.
I'm also glad to hear that it wasn't used for like strategy or saying, "Oh, Alex is trying to win jury votes or something like that." We've seen that in U.S. Survivor, but it sounds like that
Mhm.
was not the case here for
Nah,
you.
definitely not. I mean,
Yeah.
it may have pulled on a few heartstrings, and if that happens, great. But like, I did it because I wanted to hear
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
girlfriend voice in a letter, man. That's the reason I did it. Yeah.
love it.
It was nice as well. Like we got to keep the letters, so
Mm.
I got tucked mine like right up at the top of the shelter. And every tribal council before it, I'd sit down and like read the letter again and start crying again. Just be like, maybe I'll get there today if I get voted out. Yeah.
Oh man,
Awesome.
I love it. All right, well let's jump back to the game. This last episode, you were in the reward challenge. I still love it to this day. Of you, I mean, one, you dominated, all right? Look grueling. You dominated it, but then chose not to finish it off. Poured your bucket in Mark's bucket, and then went and talked to him real quick. So, how'd you think of that? Like in the moment, were you planning that for a while, or was it just like out of nowhere? I got to talk to him before I win this.
Well, I mean, for starters, looking at the challenge, walking in, I was like, oh yeah, this is for me.
Yeah.
This one, I'm gonna
Yeah.
smash it. And then yeah, I was killing. I was way ahead of everyone else, and I don't know, man. I really wanted to talk to Mark, but
Mhm.
I did it. And I don't know why I didn't go with the advice that he said. I was so stupid, man. And it kills me. This is the biggest downfall of my whole game. But yeah, no, I just thought like, is everyone had stopped. I'd seen like Kirby and Ferris are all stopped. They're all having conversations. So I thought, all right,
Mhm.
just do one more. I'll fill up Mark's bucket and then I'll go and have a chat to him. But yeah, thinking about this again, it ruins me, mate.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we
All these questions
could.
out. Oh, I'm done with this one now. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
All right. Well, I'm not letting you off that easy. So let's
let's
go.
go.
Let's go to the spa reward, man.
Yeah.
Let's go. So you were there. My question for you,
So,
the strategizing, right? So I think you were showering. You got the other three. You're asking Kirby, hey, who do you want to take out? What's next? Um, how effective was it? It looked pretty awkward from
oh,
a viewer standpoint. Was it that
it
way?
yeah, it was really awkward, man. And like the moment that was all happening, I like because I brought the two people that were in an alliance together, they could sort of just sit and chill. Like if
Mhm.
it was me and one of the other, like Mark say, we got to, you lead the conversation a bit better. But I was trying
Yeah.
to, I was like, what do I even say here? Like they're just gonna bullshit me anyway. Um, it was really awkward, man. And all I was thinking was like, far out. If I had the boys here, we'd be having a great time. Like we really
Yeah.
were like having a great time partying and having a few wines. Everyone be laughing and making plans and. Yeah, it was just a bad mistake. But I live with it. If that's the worst thing that happened,
It's not bad.
then I'll
It's
live.
not bad.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we have to acknowledge too, right? The lead up, right? That talking to Mark was an excellent move, right? And we can offer a little understanding that you're tired, you're hungry, you've been out there 40 something odd days. And so, like, yeah, I can sit here from my couch and be like, Alex, what are you doing? But then also understand if people did not see maybe our exit interview, talk us through a little bit too, is like the reason, like, why you chose to take the women in that moment. I know that I think part of it was like Mark was going to be at camp talking to the other guys. Talk us through
Yeah.
it.
Well, so Mark and I had said this was even before the mud challenge for the high tea because we were working together at this point. We said if we win rewards, we don't take each other. Whether let's split up and
Yeah.
keep tabs on everyone. And while that was really good in hindsight, it didn't allow us to make a really good plan that we're solidified with. And I think my mind was, all right, Mark is, the probably the better talker out of the two of us. If he's back at camp with Raymond and
Yeah.
Ferris, pretty confident they're going to get them. He'll get them on board. I'll spin some rubbish to tell Kirby, Rihanna, and Caro, and we'll make it work from there. But Kirby and Rihanna just didn't buy it
Yeah.
whatsoever, which is totally fair. Like they had tabs in the game, so I get that. But there's a little bit of unluckiness involved here. Like Ferris isn't going to get rid of Kirby, right? He needs a
Yeah.
shield later in the game. Rihanna is the biggest challenge threat who wins immunity. So strategically for him, it's me is the next best move. Like there's just
Yeah.
no reason why he should vote out Kirby at this point to save me. Like it just doesn't make any sense for his game. So like even if I had brought the boys and everything goes, I'm not even sure it changes anything, if I'm honest. I still think it's going to
Yeah.
be hard to do. But I mean, we'll never know. But I just think for Ferris's game, and he ends up winning, obviously. It was me. Like it was always going to be me at this point. Like it was the smartest thing for him to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, and even in Caleb and I's like recap podcast for that week, we were kind of talking through like who else could you have picked that like would have made a difference. And I always had your back with whether it was warranted or not, like we talked about. But I was like, I feel like it was the right move because you had Kitty, you had Ferris and Raymond who were with Mark, who's kind of the talker, the diplomat. And those three are the most likely to make a move and flip it
Yeah.
because they have in the past. And so I couldn't think of a better group to take, even though it wasn't necessarily the best group. I think you were in a tough spot no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, if it was going to be my last day, though, it would have been fun to be with the boys, definitely.
Yeah. That confessional with you in the row with a glass of wine. Incredible.
That 3 kilos of lasagna deep. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go to tribal council that night. Big part of your kind of episode was calling out Kirby, Ferris, and Caroline at tribal. We talked a little bit in the exit interview, but kind of want to talk a little bit more again here. Did you have the votes going into that tribal council, and did you lose them because you called them out? Or do you think like, no, I never had them to begin with,
Yeah.
from your perspective?
From my perspective, I never had them. I was pretty confident coming back to the beach that Ferris and Ray, they just weren't with us, and it didn't make sense to me for them to be with us voting Kirby. I feel like they were just blowing smoke up my ass to tell me what I wanted to hear, keep me calm, make sure nothing irrational happens, which it obviously does. And then I thought like heading into tribal again. You spoke about it before, Caleb. You're hungry, you're tired. I could have probably handled that a little bit better, or tried some whispers, or tried to figure out some way out of it. But it just the method I took was shed light on the truth, and it was probably to Kirby's demise for a game, unfortunately. But that's the game, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the game. Do you think, if I remember correctly, did Rihanna have immunity at that point?
Yeah.
If Rihanna did not have immunity, let's say like, Ferris had it, do you think potentially a move could have been made or was more likely to happen? Like
On
rather
Rihanna.
than on Rihanna, right? Yeah, rather than right. If Paris wouldn't go against Kirby, would he have likely gone against Rihanna?
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I would definitely still be in, I think. I'm pretty confident that Ray was in Ferris's ear saying like
yeah,
Rhiannon go ASAP. Like
yeah,
it's because all Ray's thinking about is who can he beat at the final challenge, and he was just saying get rid of Rihanna, get rid of Rihanna. And then Ferris would have accepted that, and I think he would have been like happy to get
yeah,
Rihanna out. So if she doesn't win immunity, then yeah, I think I would have been in
yeah,
the game. And then it's me the next target though. Like I'm
yeah,
on the chopping there, so I better start winning immunities. Otherwise, I'm in real strife.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah. What was cool too is that tribal council, right? You said it. Oh, could have been Kirby's demise. I mean, that's kind of the start of the downfall of her game. But then also we see Caroline, misplay her idol in a pretty big way. And my response was that's Alex's legacy coming in and saying like, Caroline, you got to play a move, make a big move, and it really didn't work out. So, do you feel like
Yeah.
that did have some real implications
Oh,
moving forward?
they were talking about me for 3 or 4 episodes after it. Like, I genuinely think like it woke them all up to be like, oh shit, I can't win this unless I try something.
Mhm.
And poor Caro, man, that idol play, I'm convinced. I haven't spoken to her about this. I
yeah,
might actually ring her. I'm convinced that she was so confident that she had it that even when the votes had read, it didn't register in her brain because she looked at me straight after the votes had gone and like as if to say, "There's your big move. Like I've done it. I've finally, hey, did you see that, Alex?" And I was just like looking at her like, you've not done anything like me. What was that look?" And then like I think it wasn't until she walked off, then she's gone, "Oh no," and she's like realized it. Like I'll never. Me and Jaden said to each other after, like, "Did you see that look?" And he was just like, "Yeah, what was that all about?" And I was just like, "I have no idea," but I think it just didn't read. It is like there's so much happening, and like you're so excited, and adrenaline's
yeah.
pumping
Mm.
each vote. That I think that's what's happened. And poor Carol,
Mhm.
I think she's just come away. I've done it, and yeah, obviously that was a not the best move. She should have told Mark. I've spoken to Mark about this. He said
Yeah,
like, "I can't." She didn't tell me, man. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
it would have been so different if she had.
yeah.
Well,
yeah. Wildly different ending if that move would have worked.
yeah.
And we'll never know. But you're on the jury at this point. It's an honor to be there. What was your philosophy as a jury member, either both like watching tribal councils or leading up to that final tribal council?
My philosophy, like in terms of who I'm basing what I'm basing my vote off, is that what
Yeah,
you
what
mean?
what are you looking for? Like, what do you see? Like, what are
Like,
you looking for in particular? Yeah,
yeah, I said it like just before I left the game. I said like Kirby's got my vote, and I will always respect the game enough to vote for who I think's played the best. So whoever I think had the best social game, obviously immunity challenges come into it. Whoever I think essentially played the game the best, and that's why I voted for Ferris. Because yeah, it wouldn't matter if Caroline was my best alliance and my best friend in the show. I will vote for whoever I think's played the best game. And yeah, it was Kirby until she went home, and then it was Ferris.
Mhm.
Mm.
I, w-
Makes
I
sense.
I would have loved to have seen Mark and Ferris go at it. I
Yeah,
still think Ferris wins. I really do. But
Mm.
it probably still gets my vote. But I love how Mark talks, and I think that
yeah,
Mark very, very good at changing people's ways of thinking. And I would have loved to have seen him talking if I would try and train. Ferris stumbles a bit on that first the first pitch, and I
yeah,
would have loved to see Mark jump all over it. Like I reckon it would be good. So
yeah.
never know though.
Yeah, so because we saw Mark do that a little bit with Ferris, I think it was final four, final five
Yeah.
vote out, kind of call him out for making two final threes.
Great.
I was
That was
like, let's
great.
go, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because like I mean everyone's trying to make final three deals and everything. I get it. But for Mark
yeah,
to put the pieces together and then to call him out in front of the jury, oh,
Mhm.
big move. I loved it.
yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Mhm. So good. So good. All right. So final tribal council, you kind of mentioned it. What was your take on it? I think we saw Valeria say at one point, like, you two aren't answering the questions. Like you got
Yeah.
to actually answer the questions. What was your
Yeah.
take on final tribal council as a jury member?
Oh, yeah, it's tough. I think I think you're trying to you I wasn't the one speaking, but I imagine being in the final two, you're trying to tread a very fine line. All right. You're trying to essentially convince one of the people in the jury as to why you had a good move without affecting any relationships from other people. So I
Mhm.
think vague answers are the best answers if you're in that position, right?
Mhm.
And if people keep pressing you, I think it's important to be honest and be vulnerable. But I think all in all, like it'd be so hard sitting there, man. Like they're plugging you about different questions, and you try not to hurt anyone else's feeling. If it was me, I'd be pulling on heartstrings. I'd be saying like, "Oh, I had the best time with you at this point. I
Yeah.
loved our relationship here," because that's what people like. Although it's not what people base their vote on, it certainly plays a factor. And I think
Mhm.
Ferris does that really well. You don't see a lot of it, but he essentially went through each and every one of us as to why
Mhm.
how our relationship was throughout the entire game. And that, yeah, Caroline didn't really do that very well. So I think
Hmm.
that could well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you
Awesome.
shocked that it was unanimous to
Unanimous.
Ferris?
I was surprised. No, I wasn't shocked. Like he played way better than Caroline, I think.
Yeah.
So if everyone's voting how I vote, I'm not shocked. But
Yeah.
I did think
Mhm.
maybe Kitty would, vote for Caroline. I really did think that that was a chance. But if
Mhm.
I'm honest, I think that Kitty is honorable enough to go. He did play better, and therefore he voted for her. So
Yeah.
Kitty's also Kitty. She might not like me here saying this, but she probably she she wouldn't like going against the grain very often. Like she's
Yeah.
pretty happy to sit with the majorities. Like, she would have enjoyed
That's
all
fair.
hard.
Yeah.
But like, you know what? I reckon Ferris has played better.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Yeah, so Alex, kind of wrapping us up here a little bit. What'd you learn about yourself? What's your big takeaway from this whole Survivor experience you got?
Yeah. Probably probably gratitude, man. I
Mm.
wrote a big list of things out in an Instagram post recently, but the one thing I learned the most, man, was like I'm blessed. My life is so
Mm.
good, and that's not like coming from a cocky place or like a obnoxious place. It's coming from like I genuinely feel so grateful
Yeah.
for the life I'm living. There are billions of people that don't have the shelter, don't have the food, don't have the water and stuff, and I living like that for 30 plus days really makes you realize how lucky I am. Yeah, so that was probably the biggest takeaway. I learned that not all psychologists are experts in human behavior. That one as well. She was, yeah, she was
Not wrong.
infuriating. Um, and that lying to people is really hard. Like I am a very
Mm.
honest person to myself. I'm a very honest person to other people, and
Mhm.
I thought that coming into that game that I would be able um, to pull the strings of of the puppets, and it
Mm.
wasn't the case. There were some very very good liars, and that's what you need in the game of Survivor for sure. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, that was some lessons. But definitely gratitude, man, was number
Yeah.
one.
That's good.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's good.
Would you play again?
100%. Yeah. Just
Great.
give me a
Yeah.
call, Survivor, whenever you're ready. I'm available. It's like it's such a cool opportunity, man. And it is tough. And
Yeah.
like I wouldn't like I know that there's gonna be moments in that I'm just gonna hate, but I love challenging my body. I love challenging my mind.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like I'll be so much more equipped playing again. Like having gone through it once, you just have an understanding that of so much better of the game than the newbies do. So
Yeah.
I would I would really love to play again. I think it'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd pick you again. Winner pick. So
And I'll
I
Rounds,
win
mean,
let's
for you.
go.
And
don't
I'll
say
win.
that, Alex. What if Simon is on there? You
Oh
love
yeah,
Simon too.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
It's back-to-back winner picks, man. No, all right, Alex. Last question for you.
Oh,
I think in my exit interview with you, I asked about the quote you gave, my favorite quote of the season. Um, is your ass jealous? The amount of shit
yeah.
that comes out of your mouth. And I told you I'm going to say that to Caleb every episode I can, and I have.
He does. He does.
We were playing pickleball last week, and I'm pretty sure I sent it to him a few times too, even playing there. So my question for you, I need this from you. Give me another quote that I could tell Caleb
Oh no, you've got me on the
that could
spot here.
just Get him in there.
Tell you, Alex, when I thought about that one, that I was thinking about it for like at least an hour or so
Yeah.
beforehand. I'll have to give you a buzz at some point for another. I don't have any on hand, unfortunately. But Caleb, I definitely think your ass gets jealous amount of shit your mouth talks, mate.
Thank you. That's all I needed, man. That's all I needed.
I
I
love
love
it,
it.
mate. I really
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Alex, you're the best, man. Really enjoyed chatting with you today about your game, your Survivor experience, all that stuff. Anything you want to plug to listeners about where they can find you, anything like that?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram is my main sort of channel that I use, alexco.au. I'm also on Twitter at alexsurvivorau. And like the main one that I'd love to get around is Cameo. I've been doing a few
Yeah.
Cameo videos, but I'm donating 50% of all the proceeds on Cameo to the McGrath Foundation. Breast cancer was a really big part of my life with my mum, and now with my auntie. She's actually terminal. So just trying to raise funds in any way and awareness that we can is what I'm trying to do. The MMA fight that you saw in my intro video was all for breast cancer as well. Used to bleach my hair pink at one point for breast cancer as well. So it's a big part of our lives that I'm constantly just trying to raise funds and awareness for. So get me on Cameo. You can find the link in my bio on Instagram. It's the top one, I think. Yeah, check us out there. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thanks for being on here. Can confirm you're great to talk to, so everyone should go buy cameos from you. Listeners, make sure you're following us on Instagram at Speaking Llama, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts here on YouTube, and we'll speak Llama to you later.
Thanks, guys. Love you. Cheers.